For those who don't know me, I'm Graham Hancock. I've been exploring the possibility of a lost civilization in prehistory for more than 30 years.
I actually don't think that this was something that was just dreamed up overnight by a group of hunter-gatherers. I think I'm looking at a transfer of technology.
Ancient stories talk about a catastrophic event which happened in the past that marked the end of a golden civilization.
We have sacred texts that tell us there was an antediluvian civilization.
Graham Hancock spent over 25 years to find evidence to support this claim. What if everything we know about history isn't true? What if people from the past sailed the seas and made maps long before we thought possible?
It's impossible. I mean, as a kid, I always thought the timeline was off.
In this video, we will look into the evidence Hancock found. Let's dive in. One of the most famous stories we know is that of Atlantis, told by the Greek philosopher Plato.
Atlantis had been founded by the gods themselves, by Atlas and before that Poseidon.
He described Atlantis as a land of great cities, advanced farming, and powerful ships. It was a thriving and intelligent society, but over time, greed and arrogance took over. Instead of using its power wisely, Atlantis became corrupt. Then, as if punished by fate, disaster struck.
Their devastating cataclysm was due to human greed and wandering away from the spiritual truths of our Creator.
In a single night, fire, earthquakes, and floods swallowed Atlantis. It disappeared beneath the sea, leaving no trace. Humanity had to start over, like children who had forgotten their past. Most historians dismiss this story as a myth. They say there is no evidence of an advanced civilization like Atlantis. If anyone believes in it, they might be called a dreamer or even a fraud. Archaeologists have built a timeline of history, showing slow and steady progress. According to them, there was never a place like Atlantis, but Graham Hancock always believed them to be wrong. He found new discoveries that challenged other archaeologists' perspectives on Atlantis.
Archaeology claims that if there were such a thing as a lost civilization, they would have found it already. Well, I profoundly disagree with that.
Science now reveals that a global catastrophe happened between 20,800 and 11,600 years ago, a time shockingly close to Plato's account. Could this be the event that wiped Atlantis from history? Could this mean Hancock was right about Atlantis all along? Like when 65 million years ago, a massive disaster wiped out the dinosaurs. Some believe their only surviving relatives are chickens and other birds. At that time, small shrew-like creatures lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs. They were insignificant with no real future. But when the dinosaurs disappeared, these tiny mammals had a chance to evolve. 65 million years later, here we are humans, the new rulers of Earth. Scientists agree that this disaster was caused by a 6-mile-wide space rock crashing into Earth at 70,000 miles per hour. Some believe it was an asteroid, others think it was a comet. But whatever it was, it left clear evidence of a layer of ash and soot called the KT boundary. This layer is filled with iridium, tiny carbon spheres, nanodiamonds, and melted minerals, proof of a colossal cosmic impact. These clues, called impact proxies, can only come from something that hit Earth with incredible force. Scientists Luis Walter Alvarez discovered the truth about this event. At first, other scientists strongly rejected their theory. But when a giant crater was found buried under the Gulf of Mexico, the evidence became undeniable, which made Hancock believe more that he was never wrong.
No Antarctica. Because our civilization didn't discover Antarctica until 1820.
Now, their discovery is accepted as fact by everybody. This cosmic impact changed life on Earth forever. And just like before, scientific discoveries often face resistance until the evidence becomes too strong to ignore. After a period of warming, something unexpected happened. Temperatures suddenly dropped. Even though ice sheets were still 2 kilometers thick over North America and Northern Europe, the world was thrown into a deep freeze. This extreme cold lasted from about 11,600 to 12,800 years ago. Scientists call this period the Younger Dryas. But the big question is, what caused it? At the Younger Dryas boundary, scientists found a thin layer of ash and soot in the soil. They call it the black mat. This layer stretches across vast areas of the Earth and contains materials linked to massive impacts. similar to those found from the event that wiped out the dinosaurs. At first, researchers thought this event happened 12,900 years ago, but further studies refined the date to 12,800 years ago. The first major study on this was published in October 2007 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, PNAS. The title alone was striking: Evidence for Extraterrestrial Impact 12,900 years ago that contributed to the megafaunal extinctions and Younger Dryas cooling. Many more studies followed. PNAS published research in 2009 about shock-formed hexagonal diamonds found in Younger Dryas boundary sediments. Other papers reported evidence of extreme heat and cosmic airbursts, confirming that something catastrophic happened. Studies in Mexico, Greenland, and across 4 continents all point to the same conclusion: a cosmic impact changed the course of history. In 2014, the Journal of Geology published findings of a layer rich in nanodiamonds spread across 3 continents. In 2015, PNAS released another groundbreaking study. This research ruled out the possibility that the impact markers in the Younger Dryas layer accumulated slowly over time. Instead, it confirmed that the event happened all at once, possibly in a single, terrifying day and night. The evidence suggests that multiple fireballs, likely fragments of a massive comet, struck the Earth. They came in from the northwest and hit the thick ice sheets of North America and Northern Europe. The farthest known impact evidence reaches as far as Syria. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. Since the primary impacts hit the North American ice cap, finding craters has been a challenge. The ice was over 2 kilometers thick, and any craters that formed melted away as the ice disappeared. Despite this, scientists have found overwhelming proof that a catastrophic event took place. But because they haven't found craters, skeptics have challenged their work, just like scientists Luis Walter Alvarez faced resistance when they first proposed that an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs. The Younger Dryas impact event remains one of the greatest mysteries in Earth's history. But one thing is clear: something powerful enough to reshape the planet happened 12,800 years ago, and we are only beginning to uncover its secrets. Over the past few years, scientists have found craters far beyond the edges of the ancient ice cap, in places where the ice was once very thin. These craters could be the final evidence needed to confirm a long-debated theory of fragments of a massive comet that broke apart and crashed into Earth.
How is archaeology any different than, say, medicine, other types of sciences?
And it shouldn't be monopolized by a relatively tiny group of professionals who have a much too high opinion of themselves.
The biggest impact happened on the North American ice cap, triggering a catastrophic chain of events. But why did these impacts cause a sudden drop in global temperatures, marking the start of the Younger Dryas? The most logical explanation is that the comet fragments generated intense heat and energy upon impact. This melted vast amounts of ice, sending freezing fresh water into the Atlantic Ocean. This disrupted the Gulf Stream, a crucial part of Earth's natural heating system, leading to rapid and extreme cooling worldwide. Then, 11,600 years ago, temperatures suddenly skyrocketed, bringing the Younger Dryas to an abrupt end. British astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle suggested in the 1980s that another comet impact, this time in an ocean, might be responsible. Such an impact would have triggered massive tidal waves and sent a vast cloud of water vapor into the sky. This vapor could have trapped heat, creating a greenhouse effect that warmed the planet dramatically. Some researchers believe this second event was caused by more debris from the same disintegrating comet that struck Earth 12,800 years earlier. Astronomers estimate that this comet first entered the inner solar system about 20,000 years ago. As it broke apart, its fragments spread out along its orbit, forming a deadly belt of debris that has collided with Earth multiple times over the past 13,000 years. While scientists have strong evidence for what triggered the Younger Dryas, the exact cause of its sudden end remains less certain. However, the facts are clear that 11,600 years ago, global temperatures surged and the remaining ice caps melted rapidly, and that led to a sudden rise in sea levels, known to geologists as Meltwater Pulse 1b. Interestingly, 11,600 years ago is also the date Plato gave for the destruction of Atlantis. Could this be more than just coincidence? According to Plato, the story of Atlantis was passed down through generations, reaching him through his ancestor Solon, a Greek lawmaker. Solon visited Egypt around 600 BC, where temple priests told him of a great flood that happened 9,000 years before their time. If we calculate that in modern terms, 9,000 years before 600 BC is 9,600 BC, or 11,600 years ago. If Plato had simply invented the story, it is remarkable that his timeline matches modern geological findings so precisely. But there's more. That same period 11,600 years ago is now recognized by archaeologists as a turning point in human history. It marks the birth of megalithic architecture and the first known use of agriculture. Did a global catastrophe force ancient humans to rebuild civilization? Science and history may still hold the answers. Gobekli Tepe, a place in Turkey, holds one of history's greatest mysteries. Professor Klaus Schmidt, the man who uncovered this ancient wonder. He shares 3 astonishing facts with us. First, the massive stone pillars found here were not buried by nature over time. Instead, after nearly 1,000 years of use, they were deliberately covered by people, layer by layer, with earth and rubble.
Since the late 1980s, in fact, since about 1989, all my work was journalism.
This is why the name Gobekli Tepe translates to pot-bellied hill. Second, because the site remained untouched by later civilizations, archaeologists can confidently date its origins to 11,600 years ago. That makes it 7,000 years older than Stonehenge and 6,000 years older than any known megalithic site in the world. Third, what has been unearthed so far is just a fraction of what lies beneath. Scans reveal hundreds more giant stone pillars still buried, making Gobekli Tepe the oldest and largest megalithic site on Earth. But here's the strangest part. There's no real evidence of how such advanced architecture evolved. It appears out of nowhere. Even more shocking, experts believe this place played a role in spreading knowledge of farming to early nomadic people. Gobekli Tepe could be a remnant of a lost civilization, one that already mastered building and agriculture. Could we be staring at the remains of a lost world, just as we gaze at the Sphinx today? What if Atlantis, the legendary civilization, was real? A great civilization, now gone, swallowed by time, wiped out by a catastrophe that forever changed the course of history. What we call ancient history may not be as old as we think. Perhaps, like Atlantis, the secrets of our past lie hidden beneath the sands, waiting for the day when the truth can no longer be denied. Imagine finding a place, stuck in ice, hiding secrets that have been buried for millennia.
Most of them have been intact, almost perfectly preserved over the millennia.
Graham Hancock, a British writer and an archaeologist, believes this society could have thrived during or even before the Ice Age.
Unfortunately, the lower half of the stone has now been buried by the archaeologists.
With knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and navigation that still puzzles us today. Monuments like the Great Pyramids and Stonehenge.
The Great Pyramid is probably one of the most unique and most precise buildings that has ever been built.
Suggest the ancients knew far more than we ever imagined. Could there be ancient ruins hidden beneath Antarctica's ice? It took 29 years for Hancock to discover the secrets.
So this is the stone that we're looking at straight down there is the one that I featured last night with the man bags on it.
So, without further ado, let's dive in. There is a theory that suggests an advanced society existed long before we thought humans could build such things. It challenges what we know about human history. Instead of placing early civilizations around 6,000 years ago, they could have existed much earlier. Supporting this idea are impressive ancient structures like the Great Pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge in England, and the mysterious Gobekli Tepe in Turkey. These monuments show that ancient people understood architecture and astronomy better than we thought.
It's a wooden box, but it's lined outside and inside with gold, with pure gold, and then supposedly the tablets of stone with the 10 Commandments are placed inside it.
For example, the Great Pyramids are aligned with Orion's belt, and Stonehenge connects to the solstices. These designs show the ancients knew a lot about the stars and the seasons. But it's not just about large buildings. Graham Hancock's research shows that this lost civilization had amazing skills in navigation. That might explain why we see similar designs in buildings across different continents. These structures are so well built that they suggest the lost society understood engineering in ways we don't expect from ancient cultures. This advanced knowledge also shows up in the careful planning of ancient cities. These cities were built with precision, suggesting a society that knew how to organize people and create lasting structures. This shared knowledge might have spread across the world, passed down by the survivors of this forgotten civilization. Let's go back millions of years to the Eocene epoch, when Antarctica looked very different. During this time, Antarctica was warm, with lush forests and many kinds of plants. It was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, but wasn't always frozen. While it was still near the South Pole, global temperatures were higher, so Antarctica had a milder climate. The Eocene was a time of big changes. The breakup of Pangaea had already started, and Antarctica was slowly drifting toward its current position. Other land masses like South America and Australia were moving away. This shift changed the planet's climate and ocean currents. Without thick ice covering Antarctica, the continent was much warmer, and life could thrive there. During the Eocene, temperatures were higher, and Antarctica had no ice sheets. Ice reflects sunlight, helping cool the Earth. Without the ice, temperatures rose. As the continent continued drifting, it became isolated. Cold waters from the Antarctic circumpolar current created a barrier, and over millions of years, Antarctica grew colder. Fossils from the Eocene show that Antarctica was once full of life. Fossils of beech trees, ferns, and conifers prove that the continent was green. During this period, sea levels were higher, and coastal areas were different from what we see today. The warm seas were full of diverse marine life. The Eocene epoch lasted from 56 to 34 million years ago. It was a time of change for mammals. After the dinosaurs went extinct, mammals took their place. Earth experienced a big warming event called the Paleocene-Eocene Thermal Maximum, PETM. This caused temperatures to rise quickly, changing ecosystems and causing some species to go extinct. But it also helped mammals evolve quickly. During the Eocene, high levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere resulted from volcanic activity and the breakdown of carbon sinks, such as forests and wetlands. These factors led to a greenhouse effect that trapped heat in the atmosphere, warming the planet. This dramatic warming had wide-reaching consequences, not only altering the Earth's climate, but also impacting ocean currents and ecosystems. The Eocene period is a stark reminder of how the planet can change over time, showcasing both the fragility and resilience of life in the face of shifting environmental conditions. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. Some speculate that beneath Antarctica's thick ice, there might lie remnants of a lost civilization, hidden for millennia. Evidence like the Peary Race Map, created in 1513, only fuels Graham Hancock's ideas. This ancient map portrays a remarkably accurate coastline of Antarctica, long before the continent was officially discovered by explorers in the 19th century. The precision of the map raises questions about how ancient civilizations could have had such advanced knowledge of the world, including regions that were thought to be inaccessible at the time.
Because one of the famous maps is the Peary Race Map, which was created by a Turkish admiral called Peary Reis in the year 1513.
Alongside the Peary Race Map, other mysterious discoveries, such as ancient tools and unexplainable artifacts, further stoke the flames of speculation that humans may have known of Antarctica's existence far earlier than previously thought. The Eocene, known for its global warmth, was a time when the Earth experienced significantly higher temperatures, and there were no polar ice sheets. At this point, Antarctica was not the frozen wasteland we know today, but a temperate landmass that supported lush vegetation and a diverse array of life forms. Fossils discovered in the region confirm that the continent was once a thriving ecosystem, rich with flora and fauna. As Antarctica drifted southward, however, the climate cooled, and ice began to form, eventually encasing the continent in the ice sheet that defines it today. In modern times, Antarctica has become a focal point for various theories. Some claim that wealthy individuals or secret organizations are funding expeditions to search for hidden civilizations or even extraterrestrial technology buried under the ice. These theories are fueled by the Peary Race Map's apparent depiction of Antarctica before it was ice-covered, suggesting that ancient peoples may have mapped the continent centuries before it was officially discovered. There are also claims that strange symmetrical formations seen in satellite imagery could be remnants of man-made structures, further suggesting that beneath the ice, long-forgotten secrets may be waiting to be uncovered.
I have no doubt that the ancient Egyptians were involved in completing the Great Pyramids, and there's 4 reasons for that. And that is the shafts, the so-called air shafts, that cut through the body of the Great Pyramid.
Operation High Jump, a mission led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd in the late 1940s, is often linked to these theories. Officially, the mission aimed to explore Antarctica's geography and set up a U.S. research base. But some believe Byrd's team was searching for alien bases or ancient ruins beneath the ice. Byrd's mysterious diary entries and reports of strange flying objects have led many to speculate about extraterrestrial activity in Antarctica. Whistleblowers have come forward with stories of underground facilities, alien technology, and encounters with extraterrestrial beings beneath Antarctica's surface. These claims suggest that secret operations are happening below the ice, involving advanced technology and possibly even interstellar diplomacy. Some believe a global elite is involved, spending billions of dollars to uncover these hidden secrets. Though these theories are speculative, they add to the mystery of Antarctica. The continent's isolation, harsh conditions, and the Antarctic Treaty, which promotes scientific cooperation and bans military activity, make it the perfect place for secret operations. One of the most fascinating theories is that Antarctica holds a doorway to inner Earth, a hidden world beneath the surface where ancient civilizations or extraterrestrial species might live. Though this idea comes from myth, it adds to the mystery of what Antarctica might be hiding. Finally, Graham Hancock's analysis of the Piri Reis map adds another layer to the theory. He suggests the map shows Antarctica's coastline without ice, thousands of years ago, long before modern explorers charted the continent.
That it is in his own handwriting, that he based it on more than 100 older source maps.
This theory suggests ancient civilizations knew Antarctica's true nature and may have mapped it accurately. Hancock also believes ancient myths, like the story of the Great Flood, may hold clues about global cataclysms that reshaped Earth's climate. The knowledge from these lost civilizations might have influenced later cultures, leading to maps like the Piri Reis map, and leaving behind evidence of their advanced understanding of the world. The mysteries of Antarctica continue to captivate people around the world. From secret expeditions to ancient maps, there's so much we don't understand about this frozen continent. Could there really be a lost civilization beneath the ice, waiting to be discovered? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below.
As I walk around Gigantea, I feel cut down to size, a dwarf in the presence of the work of giants.
What if everything we know about history isn't true? What if people from the past sailed the seas and made maps long before we thought possible?
Well, I think their feat is almost unparalleled. You have to realize the time 1,000 years ago when Polynesians were treating the ocean as an open highway.
Graham Hancock believes they did.
I am a journalist, and the subject that I'm investigating is human prehistory.
He found clues that show a lost civilization traveled the oceans, made maps, and even understood longitude way before it was discovered.
He may be a seasoned navigator, but I'm betting he's never used maps like these.
In this video, we'll explore this hidden history where maps show Antarctica.
No Antarctica. Because our civilization didn't discover Antarctica until 1820.
Strange roads under the sea, and more. Let's get started. Graham Hancock was born on August 2, 1950, in Britain. He is a writer with ideas about ancient civilizations. He believes an advanced civilization lived during the last ice age.
Is a lost, advanced civilization of the ice age.
This civilization vanished after comet strikes about 12,900 years ago. He thinks some survivors passed on their knowledge to early humans. This helped start civilizations like Egypt, Sumeria, and Mesoamerica. Hancock grew up in Edinburgh. He studied sociology at Durham University. Later, he worked as a journalist for British newspapers and magazines. His first books focused on problems in international development. One of these, Lords of Poverty, 1989, criticized corruption in the aid system. In 1992, Hancock changed his focus to ancient civilizations. He wrote books like Fingerprints of the Gods and Magicians of the Gods. In the past, he has talked about his ideas on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast and the PBD podcast, which is hosted by Patrick Bet-David, where he also discusses a wide range of topics.
My view is the ancient world had the right attitude.
In these podcasts, Graham Hancock talks about important things. He shares a story that isn't about a civilization like ours. It's not about phones, rockets, or cars. It's about an old civilization from the Stone Age, a time most people forget. Many experts disagree with Hancock's work. They say his ideas lack strong facts and fairness. They call his research pseudoscience because he sometimes ignores important details. Some experts say his work focuses too much on secret knowledge and things like psychedelics. They believe this does not match how real science works. Archaeologists often talk about ancient ocean travel. One famous story is the Polynesian expansion. This happened around 3,000 to 3,500 years ago. The Polynesians were expert sailors. They could cross the ocean over long distances. They reached Easter Island, which is far from both South America and Tahiti. These sailors not only found the island, but they also settled there. It's a story of bravery and skill. We usually think of this as a story of the Polynesians. But Graham Hancock says there is something more that history has missed. Hancock thinks history might ignore ancient people who knew how to sail far across the ocean. He says they may have traveled long before the Polynesians, bringing different cultures together in ways we still don't fully see. He believes ancient sailors helped share new ideas, trade goods, and explore the world. His ideas question what we usually think about history, showing that lost civilizations may have played a big part in early sea travel. Graham says we should question the idea that the Polynesians were the first to sail the oceans. He found new DNA evidence in the Amazon. It might show that people sailed much earlier. What if humans sailed long before the Polynesians? What if they knew how to navigate the oceans, but we have forgotten it? The Egyptians were great builders. They had boats more than 4,500 years ago. Some people think they never sailed out into the open ocean. But why not? If they had boats, why wouldn't they use them in the sea? Hancock makes us think. There's no reason to believe the Egyptians didn't know how to sail. Some people think other cultures sailed much earlier, maybe even from the Ice Age. Now, there's more to this story. Ancient maps. These maps show that people long ago knew what the world looked like during the Ice Age. One famous map is the Piri Reis map, made in 1513. It shows parts of South America, North America, and Africa. Piri Reis said he used over 100 older maps. These maps came from the Library of Alexandria, a place filled with ancient knowledge. Sadly, the library was lost in the 4th century AD. These old maps are surprisingly accurate. They show both latitude and longitude. Longitude was something people didn't understand until the 1700s. How did ancient cultures know about it? Graham Hancock believes they did. These maps suggest there was a group of sailors who traveled the world and mapped it long before we did.
I want to make clear that, first of all, I couldn't do anything I do without the work that archaeologists have done, the groundwork that archaeologists have done, and secondly, I'm not alone.
One shocking thing about these maps is their coastlines. They look like they did during the Ice Age when sea levels were much lower. This means the maps might be based on knowledge from thousands of years ago. Could an ancient civilization have traveled the world long before we thought? Another mystery is longitude. Finding it at sea needs precise timekeeping. Historians say this wasn't possible until the 1700s. But these old maps seem to get it right. How? Did ancient people know more about navigation than we realize? Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. Graham Hancock believes a lost civilization once had amazing knowledge of travel and mapping. He thinks they were wiped out by disasters long ago. Some of their wisdom may have survived in the Library of Alexandria. But when the library burned, much of that knowledge disappeared. Only small pieces remain in rare old maps. One of the most surprising things in these maps is the image of Antarctica. The land was hidden under ice for thousands of years. But these maps show Antarctica as it looked before the ice. This means someone mapped it long before we found it in the 1800s. The Grand Bahama Banks are a key part of the story. The Piri Reis map shows an island near North America. It has big stone roads on it. Hancock went there and found Bimini Road. Some say it is natural, but Hancock thinks it was made by people. The map shows the Bimini Road above water, but it is now under the sea. This means long ago the Grand Bahama Banks might have been above water. People may have built the road, and now it is lost underwater. What if there was an old, lost civilization? One that sailed across the seas and could map the oceans long ago. This could have happened even during the Ice Age. But most people don't believe this. Graham Hancock thinks it's time we rethink everything we know. The real mystery is not if the Bimini Road is natural or made by humans. The real mystery is that it was once on a map when it was still above water. Hancock wants us to think, could ancient people have explored the seas? Maybe they left clues we have missed. Could human history go back much farther than we thought? Maybe the answers are not in what we've been taught, but in old maps and sunken ruins that still hide secrets. A long time ago, there was a group of people who knew things we still don't understand. They lived in the Stone Age, but their knowledge was way ahead of its time. What if we told you they figured out something we didn't learn until the 1700s? The problem of longitude, the vertical lines on a map, was a big issue for sailors. It was dangerous because, without knowing it, a ship could crash into land. Sailors couldn't measure longitude correctly. It wasn't until the 1700s, when the chronometer was invented, then we learned to do it right. What's amazing is that old maps from the 14th and 15th centuries show perfect longitudes. These maps, like the Uranus Phineas, Piri Reis, and others, show a world that was very different, even from the Ice Age. Some maps even show Antarctica, which wasn't discovered by the West until 1820. One of the big mysteries is their drawings of Antarctica. Modern explorers found this land in the 19th century, but some old maps show its coastline without ice. That hasn't happened for thousands of years. Even stranger, some maps show the Earth's true shape. They get distances right and even hint at deep knowledge of math. But how? The people who made these maps knew things that scientists discovered much later. These maps are more than just pictures. They show that an ancient civilization once knew how to map the world. They show Antarctica, much bigger in the Ice Age, and lands that were once connected, like Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia. We don't see this now because sea levels were lower back then. This wasn't just exploration. It was a deep understanding of the planet, something we are just starting to learn. The most exciting part is that these maps have a message in Latin. It says they reveal regions once hidden. This wasn't just a boast. It means the maps weren't made recently. They were rediscovered, maybe after being hidden for thousands of years. What does this mean? It shows that a long time ago, a civilization understood the stars and seas. They had knowledge that we are just beginning to understand. They didn't have cars or phones, but their knowledge was special. This mystery is what Graham Hancock invites us to explore. It challenges what we know about our past. It's not about lost cities or myths. It's about finding an old civilization whose knowledge was hidden. And maybe, just maybe, the maps they left behind are the key to unlocking those secrets.